Hello friends, welcome to the class of quality assurance, and this subject is in the course of B Farm 6th semester, and the code of this subject is BP606T. And in this lecture again I am going to cover very important topic that are related to the whatever the things that are happening in the pharmaceutical industry. And in the previous classes actually I have already covered what is actually process validation, what is qualification, what is calibration, and what are the different types of qualification, what are the different types of validation. So, in order to know if you want to know those topics, please refer my previous videos. And in the today topic I am again going to discuss very important topic of unit 5 of this quality assurance syllabus, that is validation master plan. And I am Dr. Alankar Srivastav, associate professor in the KITE group of institution. So, let us start without wasting our time. So, the first of all, what is this validation? The validation is a systematic approach to collecting and analyzing sufficient data to give reasonable assurance and documented evidence that a process or an analytical method will, when operated within specified parameters, consistently produce results within predetermined specifications. That is actually validation. So, through validation we are actually assuring the quality of the product that are consistently produced within predetermined specifications. That is actually validation. And of course, the validation is an essential part of a good practices that includes the good manufacturing practice as well as good clinical practices, and it is therefore an element of the pharmaceutical quality system. The pharmaceutical quality system cannot be function properly or even cannot exist in simple words without validation studies. Now, what is this validation master plan? This validation master plan is actually a high level document that establishes an umbrella validation plan for the entire project and summarizes the manufacturer's overall philosophy and approach to be used for establishing performance adequacy. So, basically this validation master plan is actually prepared before performing the actual validation studies, because it summarizes all kind of the manufacturer's philosophy of performing the validation and what is the approach that he is going to use while performing all these studies throughout the validation process. Now, it provides the information on the manufacturer's validation work program and defines details of the time scale for the validation work to be performed, including a statement of the responsibilities of those implementing the plan. So, what are the things that are including in this validation master plan? First of all, it provides the what kind of the approach that manufacturer is using while performing validation studies. Another thing, it provides all the information that are related to the what kind of validation work that are going to be actually performed, and it also includes the summary of what are the different people who are responsible or who are actually involved in implementing the validation program, and what are the responsibilities of those people also. Now, the principle of this validation program, the validation in general requires a meticulous preparation and careful planning of the various steps in the process. So, now by this line you can easily understand the importance of validation master plan. So, validation is basically requires a meticulous preparation. It requires a number of different types of preparations for actually implementing the program. And in addition, all work involved should be carried out in a structured way according to formally authorized standardized working and administrative procedures. So, now you can easily understand if we are using if we are meticulously planning anything, and we have to prepare some kind of a master plan for the proper execution of those studies. So, there should be a properly standardization of the work, and there should be some proper administrative procedures to be followed for the execution of those programs. Another thing, in addition, the validation is characterized by, the first thing is the multidisciplinary approach. You can easily understand the validation studies cannot be performed by a single team. For example, the quality assurance team. The quality assurance team cannot be wholesale be responsible for performing the validation studies, because it involves the multidisciplinary approach. You will have to involve the engineers, you will have to involve the various different stream of people. For example, there may be a involvement of analyst, microbiologist, mechanical engineers, then you have to involve some other people, for example, some administrative people as well. There is a large collaboration, and through which you can actually perform the successful execution of validation program. So, this is there should be a multidisciplinary approach for performing these validation studies, and of course, for performing such any multidisciplinary approach, we need to establish a validation master plan previously before implementation of the study. Now, next thing is the time constraint. So, now you can also easily understand, generally the validation work is submitted to rigorous time schedule, and these studies are always the last stage prior to taking new processes, facilities into routine operation. So, there is a very tight schedule, and again, for any manufacturing process or establishing any proper validation, we have to prepare a validation master plan through which we can function properly even in the time constraints. And the next thing is the cost. The validation studies are costly as they require the time of highly specialized person and expensive technology, and that is why there is a need for the validation master plan. These factors require a well organized and structured approach, and that should be adequately described in the validation master plan. So, now what are the purpose of validation master plan? The VMP should present an overview of the entire validation operation, its organizational structure, its content as well as planning. The core of the VMP being the list or the inventory of the items to be validated and the planning schedule. So, these all should be these purpose are solved by the validation master plan. Now, the VMP, a proper VMP helps management. How it can help management? The first thing, it can help management to understand or to know what the validation program involves with respect to time, people and money. And another thing, that it helps the management to understand the necessity of the program, what is that we are going to execute. The VMP also helps the members of the validation team to know about their task and what are the responsibilities assigned to them while performing any validation studies. So, this is the another purpose of the validation master plan. And a VMP helps the GMP inspectors. So, there is an inspection also. So, this validation master plan also helps those inspectors also to understand the firm's approach to validation and the setup and organization of all validation studies. This is the another purpose that is solved by the validation master plan. Now, next thing, what is the scope of validation master plan? The validation master plan or the VMP includes all the relevant aspects relating to the production of pharmaceuticals in the production facility at ABC Pharmaceutical. So, let us assume that there is any pharmaceutical company. So, the validation master plan includes all the relevant aspects, whatever the things that are included in the manufacturing in the production of any pharmaceutical in the production facility of the any hypothetical pharmaceutical company. The principles of validation, the organization of the qualification and validation, and the design and nomenclature of the documentation and equipments are also described. So, now you can easily understand, for performing proper documentation, we need to establish a proper nomenclature also. The nomenclature or the proper reference numbers of the all documents as well as the equipment are also should be performed before performing the validation studies. And the validation master plan actually also includes what is the defined nomenclature of the documentation as well as the equipments or the any kind of a design or any kind of a facility that is going to be validated in the validation process. The VMP covers all facility used in the production of tablets, liquids, ointments, creams, suppositories and sterile products. The facility for storing raw materials, interim and the intermediates and finished products, storage, services and the rooms for staff. So, these all are the things that VMP covers. It covers all kind of a nomenclature, it covers all kind of the responsibilities as well as the facilities that are going to be validated, their nomenclatures and their numberings and all, the proper what are the different documents that are associated with it. For example, there is a documents which are related to the calibration, related to the SOPs and related to the different types of tasks assigned to the different personnels, and what are the different types of the material that are actually in which we are performing the validation. These all things are actually included in the validation master plan. And now, according to FDA guideline, qualification and validation should be done according to the written procedures. So, now you can easily understand this qualification and validation, this should be performed according to the written procedure. This is a clear cut US FDA guideline, and for that because of this guideline, again we have to perform or we have to maintain a validation master plan before performing the validation studies. So, before going to the what are the different parts of the validation master plan, the documents that are associated with the qualification and validation includes, according to FDA, is the first type of a document is the validation master plan. Second thing is the standard operating procedures, that are SOPs, specifications, protocols and reports, risk assessment outcomes, process flow charts, operator manual, training records, calibration procedures and records, sampling plans, testing plans and methods, statistical methods and results, history of qualification or validation, plan for ensuring review of validation status, plan for ensuring maintaining a validated state. And in these all documents you can clearly see the first type of document which is related to the qualification and validation that needs to be maintained according to the US FDA guideline is the validation master plan. Now, let us discuss what are the different types of things that are included in the validation master plan. The manufacturer should have a VMP which reflects the key element of validation that we have already discussed in the previous slides. Now, it should be concise and clear and contain at least the following. The first thing, title page and authorization, in which includes the approval signatures and the dates. Next thing is the table of content. What are the different types of contents included in the validation master plan. Third thing is the abbreviations and glossaries. Then validation policy, what is the approach or what is the policy of the validation program. Then philosophy, intention and approach to validation. So, this thing is also needs to be included. Then roles and responsibility of the relevant personnel. What are the different types of what are the different personals, who are the different personals who are involved in the validation program, what are their respective roles as well as the assigned responsibilities. Then the resources to ensure that validation is done. Next thing is the outsourced services, the selection, qualification, management throughout life cycle. Then deviation management in validation. For example, some results may deviate. So, in the case if there is a deviation of any result, how you are managing that deviation. Then another thing, change control in validation and the risk management principles in validation. Then next thing is the training and the scope of validation. So, these all are the different parts which are included in the validation master plan. Another few more things are there. The documentation required in the qualification and validation such as procedures, certificates, protocols and reports. Next thing is the premises qualification, utilities qualification, equipment qualification, process validation, cleaning validation and personal qualifications such as analyst qualification. So, these all are the things also included in this validation master plan. So, how you are performing the premises qualification, the premises are qualified or not. Then utilities qualification, what are the different utilities, for example, the supply of water. This thing also needs to be qualified properly before actual implementation of the validation program. Then equipment qualification should be there. We have to perform the right from the DQ, IQ, OQ as well as the performance qualification, that is PQ of any equipment before implementation of the validation program. Process validation should be there. Then cleaning validation is obviously another very important thing. The cleaning validation of any equipment should be performed according to the prerequisite specification. Then personnel qualifications such as analyst qualification. The analyst should also be properly validated according to its skills, so that there should not it should not affect the results of your testing or end product. Some few more things are analytical method validation, computerized system validation, establishing acceptance criteria, life cycle management including retirement policy, requalification and revalidation, relationship with quality management elements, then validation matrix, and lastly references. So, these all are the different parts included in the validation master plan. Now, there is another guideline about the validation master plan, that this master plan should be reviewed at regular intervals and kept up to date according to the current GMP guideline. So, now these GMP guidelines are updating. So, if there is any updation or after some suitable period of time, this validation master plan is reviewed again for any updation. Now, here you can see the validation master plan of prospective validation. So, in the topmost that you can easily you can see that while performing the validation, while preparing the validation master plan of any prospective validation, first of all we need to perform the design qualification, installation qualification, operational qualification and performance qualification of the whatever be the facilities or equipment that we are having. And after that we have to perform the cleaning validation, process validation and the computer system validation. And after that there will be a proper generation of the validation report, and this validation report will be monitored and maintained, or change control is there. And if there is something that is related to the control or there is any change, that means we have to perform the revalidation again. And after performing revalidation, again we have to go through the phase of maintenance or monitoring or control of the these all generated data. And these all things actually included, the planning of all these kind of things are included in the validation master plan. And there is another example of the retrospective validation. So, before performing the retrospective validation, we have to perform the actual survey, and after the survey the validation master plan is prepared with by first thing that includes the risk analysis, then IQ, OQ and PQ, and after that we have to perform the cleaning validation, process validation and computer system validation, and after that the whole data is generated and the validation report is prepared. And after that monitoring, there will be a monitoring or a change control of any these validation report, and if there is any change control or changes are there, we have to revalidate the these data, and these all things are included in this. These all properly whole planning is actually included in the validation master plan. So, this is all about this topic. So, hope you all have liked this video. So, thank you friends. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.